Hello, everyone. Welcome back. It's Carrie again. Today's topic is heavy. It's going to be a huge confessional for me. It's going to be hopefully eye-opening for others. It's about catfishing. What you call modern day catfishing. Like I know MTV has a show called Catfish, and I've actually watched some episodes of that, and I have a big personal connection to this. So let's go back to the beginning of the internet. Okay. I was in my 20s, I believe, when I got my first computer. Well, actually, my mother had a computer and she got on the internet, and I had some friends that, I says, well, how do you, know, this was back in the day where to go to a site like Google, really, Google didn't exist at all. And to go to a site, you would actually have to type in, like, watch TV commercials and type in their www dot whatever address. And that was pretty much how you navigated the internet, was you had to know where you were going. Then Yahoo was created. And when Yahoo first came about, it was, of course, they had email. They also had these chat rooms. And it was a huge, draw. They, rooms where you could go play card games or, different things like that. And then rooms where you could go chat. And there were hundreds of them. So when I was at my mother's one day and she was on her computer, she was in one of these chat rooms and she was showing me, how you can talk to people, blah, blah, blah. And she was under a fake persona. And she explained to me how, these people don't know, who you are or whatever. You just have conversations with them. You didn't give out like your phone number, your address, or really where you were from. You just created this whole different identity. And I thought, well, that's kind of cool. So then I got a computer, and then my mother, taught me a few things on how to, get to the chat rooms and stuff like that. And so I went out there, and of course I was like, well, I don't want anyone to know who I am, and I was married at the time in my first marriage. And so I created a fake persona, and you got fake pictures, and whenever, back in the day, it was like you took them out of magazines or whatever, you just try to come up with the most realistic thing possible, but it really wasn't. And you knew just about everybody else that you were talking to, well, and there wasn't being realistic either. So that was my cat, little man, by the way. Um, so you didn't really, like trust anything people were saying, when you were talking to them, but you were in these group chat rooms. There could be like 50 people in there, and you're just typing random stuff, having conversations. Then you could have these private message things where someone, a message would come up, private box, and then you could talk to them. And sometimes I had like 5 or 6 of these going at a time while I'm still talking to people in the main room. So you had your regulars once you found certain rooms. Now, okay, my mother was big in the like firefighter police rooms, where supposedly if you were a firefighter or a policeman or whatever, in the service industry, you could go to these rooms, and they were set up to chit chat with other people of the same profession, but anyone could go in it. So, people went in. My mom would go in and pretend she was a police officer or whatever. And granted, this was all brand new at the time. Of course, there's sirens out there now. So talk about appropriate timing, so I'm sorry, ignore the sirens if you can hear them. But so there was, everyone seemed to be pretending, or at least that's what I thought, because this is my mother, who was in her 40s or 50s at the time when I was in my 20s, teaching me this stuff. And I did listen to my mother back in the day. And so I would go to these, rooms, but I went as a regular person hoping to talk to, a firefighter or a policeman or whatever. And, but my mom would always, and I was a girl, my mom would always pretend to be men and go out there and like hit on these women and, talk to these women and whatever. And I just thought, well, that was kind of weird. But then I remembered back in the day when my mom had said, she wished she was a man and she would watch gay porn, guys and stuff. And that was her reasoning, was she goes, I should have always been a guy, and I just accepted my mother for who she was. And I never said it to anybody. And I was like, that's her own personal thing. And I've always been, and I think that's why I've always been very open and appreciative of, things outside of my perspective, because it's not my life. but I was raised with a mother who apparently had a lot of different weird ideals. And in order to love her and accept her, I had to also learn how to accept all these strange things I didn't understand. And so, with that in mind, my mother kind of taught me how to catfish, so to speak. But it wasn't like I was trying to like meet somebody or anything like that. It was just somebody to talk to. Really, my first husband was an alcoholic, so he was never there. If he was there, he was sleeping or passed out. Um, and, so I would oftentimes be sitting up waiting to go pick him up from the bar. And I like did things like crocheting and knitting and whatever in the meantime till the internet came along. And then I had the computer to be on all night. So that was great. I could have cared less where my husband was because I was having fun talking to other people that seemed to want to talk to me. They were in the same situations. We were all just sitting there alone, So, and I always played I was single and stuff to people. And eventually my mother ended up taking a lot of these police stories and started connecting with real police officers as a woman eventually. This is like decades later, and wrote these over dramatized police stories. These police officers would give them stories of cases that they had, and then she would write these stories, and they got published in one of these magazines that you think these stories could only be made up, and I don't even know if police officers were telling her the right things or if these were legit people or anything. So it was, supposedly true stories, but I don't even know if they were. I mean, if you knew my mom the way I do and all the lies that have been told in the manipulation, she's a full-on narcissist. Most of what she did was probably just creative writing, in all honesty. But, it gave me the idea. I ended up doing some catfishing in the BDSM world. This is before 50 Shades of Grey. I'm not kidding you. I had files and files and files on conversations online where I was, an online, and I got a webcam and stuff. So there were some stuff that was completely legit, the submissive, until I got into the real BDSM world in the real world, right? I eventually ended up doing that because I was so intrigued with it. But I had gotten all these stories, and I was this online submissive to so many mistresses and masters. And, then I would keep all these details to literally write a book on the BDSM world and the reality of it. And so then I had to be part of the real world, part of it to, experience it, to do this. Well, in the meantime, 50 Shades of Grey came out, and I says, well, and I'll be honest with you, it's nothing like the real thing. It's not. That's like one perspective of it. There's so much more to it than what you do not see in 50 Shades. So I really look at 50 Shades as more of a made-up story, drama type thing. I'll tell you what, it's way too kind. I mean, that is not what the real BDSM world is like. That movie and those books are way too kind. I liked it though, but you have to be one of those kind of people who does like some pain and roughness and being demeaned and humiliated and degraded. If you enjoy that, then you're great. You're good for it. I mean, the thing though too is it's not like your real life. Okay, so let's talk about, I'm going to make a whole video on BDSM, but we'll talk about it just for a moment because that was a big part of my catfishing. And, part of it is there's certain ways you want to be talked to in a sexual way, and then you want to be respected. So I'm a very dominant, want to be respected person in real world, right? In my day-to-day. However, when it came to it at that point in time, it came to my sexual life. I loved being, I got excited being called a slut or a bitch or, treated like a dog or spanked, handcuffed, those kind of, I mean, that's minor. I'll do in the BDSM video, the big stuff. That's minor stuff. That's intro stuff. Okay. But you have to have an excitement of something different than what you're used to. And it puts your mind in a different place. And I know sexually, some people can't even go there. They're like, oh my gosh, you're someone's prisoner and they're beating you and they're hurting you and they're doing all these terrible things. That's abuse. You're being abused. And the thing is, you go into it wanting to be abused. Okay. It's the desire of, I don't want to put this, it's kind of like, okay, people who are addicted to porn, and I can talk about this as a sex addict. I'm not anymore. Porn doesn't do anything for me. But what happens is in real life, you have so much vanilla sex or, things are just plain. And with the internet, with catfishing, it's the same thing. Life gets very plain and boring. And so what you do is you go out and you have to look for that next fantasy. Well, you can have the fantasy through porn. You can have the fantasy through catfishing. You can create this persona and be this person. But the problem is you have to go to the next step. Pretty soon that gets boring. So then people are taking this porn or their fantasies and they're starting to live them out. Okay, now let's say you're watching porn about, a father with a daughter or somebody older that is with somebody who's supposedly only 13 or 14, and they make porn films where they portray that. Okay, it's not real child porn because the characters aren't, or the people aren't really that young, so they can get away with it, but they can have the premise out there and the storyline, which then the viewer believes. And the same thing with catfishing. The premise is out there and you can pretend to be anybody and you make them believe. So you're taking that next step. But the problem is when you live it out in the real world, when you want to have that relationship with that person, unfortunately in the porn world, you end up making pedophiles because when they need the reality of it, they'll go out and kidnap and molest children. And it's not much different in the internet world with the catfishing, where then all of a sudden you have to go out and you have to try to be this person and you hurt somebody, okay? Because they find out you're not that person. You can carry some of these online relationships on for years and years. It's still not healthy. None of it's healthy. It's not good for the mind to be going in so many of those directions and pushing it that far. But anyway, when I started realizing catfishing wasn't right was when my mother catfished me. Okay? Yeah, she did. She knew my online names and stuff. I told her everything. We talked about everything back at that point in time in life. And so she pretended to be this guy who I was talking to. And after a while, though, something happened where a switch flipped. I also say God brought my intuition to life and kind of let me know, because I truly don't know how I figured it out. I'll put all the pieces together the way I did. But certain things were being said. There was a certain way the conversation was going. And finally, I went to my mother one day and I said, so this character online is you, huh? And I started repeating certain things, and I went on with this, but I didn't tell her who the actual person was. And suddenly she just sat there and started laughing and giggling, and she went, well, yeah, that's me. I'm like, why are you hitting on me? She asked me for naked pictures, all this stuff. And just like, it was a real person. Luckily, I didn't send her anything. But yeah, my mother was out there talking, having romantic sex talk with me, catfishing me. And I realized, this is sick. This is beyond disgusting. That's your mother doing that, pretending to be a guy, talking to you in a sexual way online. And once I did realize it, once I got her to confess, which she must have thought, she confessed thinking I knew all along, which I really didn't. And I think that when she realized, oh, wait, I just confessed to something that she didn't know, it was a big deal. It was gross. It was disgustingly gross. And still to this day, in all honesty, my mother stalks me on social media. She has to know everything I'm saying because of stuff like this. Why? I hold her barrel of secrets. The things that people would go, there's no way she'd do that. Yeah, she did. Yes, she did. And she did it to me. Even, my siblings were free of it. I was the scapegoat for her for everything, being the oldest. And she, she's not the person people think she is at all. I'll tell you that much. And, listen, Linda, just calm down and listen, okay? Not that her name is Linda. That's just a phrase people say, okay? But I can see her just going off watching this because, yeah, she claims somebody found my channel. Was watching it. And she's just obsessed, and nobody knows her name. Nobody knows who she is unless she calls herself out. I mean, people that know me, I guess, from our local community, but I don't know how they found me because I'm not friends with any of them. So you tell me how it got discovered, how she even found my YouTube page. Why? She stalks me on social media, and I post my YouTube stuff on my social media page, who I'm not friends with anybody she would possibly know. And, I deleted anybody, that she could possibly know. And yeah, she still found out. So she stalks me. Yeah, she definitely does. But anyway, what ends up happening with catfishing is you end up developing trust issues, not just causing trust issues in others. You yourself start having trust issues. It turns back on you, where you can't trust anybody. And then the thing is, you realize this is a great outlet to meet people and have friends and be part of groups. And then suddenly you can't do that because you've never been you. So I did, being so lonely as I was, I really didn't have any friends. My husband really kept me under lock and key. And the only friends I really could have was his family, and that was it, the family connection and nobody else. The one time I did go to a movie with somebody, boy, he was on the phone calling that person nonstop, like had to know where I was at all times. And to be honest with you, I did one time go somewhere and said I was with somebody that he, let me go to a movie with, and I wasn't, because I wanted to go out and have a life. He went out to bars for 15 years. I don't know what he was doing and who he was hanging out with. I do it one night and say I'm with a friend somewhere, and he's on the phone calling that person nonstop. Where's she? What's she doing? It was crazy. I spent 15 years letting him do whatever he wanted. The one night he's hunting me down. Because he was guilty of a lot of shit that, he knew, well, she's going to go do something. Why wouldn't I? You did for 15 years. I'm sorry, but I don't feel guilty. I don't. Not when he left me sit at home for 15 years. Well, he went out drinking. I don't care. But anyway, I started developing online relationships. I still didn't put like my real name out there or anything, but I would go on the webcam and it would be me. And to be honest with you, I had to prepare myself for everyone saying you're ugly, blah, 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 like, back when I was bullied in school, and I was prepared for it, and I said, whatever, I'm just going to do this. I was shocked for the first time ever. People were going, you're pretty, you're beautiful, you're nice, you're friendly, I love talking to you, you're smart, you're wise. And it wasn't just guys trying to get in my pants. I mean, this was groups of people, I had women, that I developed friendships with. And it was, for once, nice to be me. Coming out of that catfishing role, pretending to be somebody else, because I didn't want to say I was married. I didn't want to say I was, that I thought I was ugly and all of these things. And my self-esteem just grew. I started working on my body. I started taking better care of myself. I started believing in myself in a way that I never had. I want to say catfishing is all bad. Like I always say, God takes the bad, he'll turn it into good. And because I came to the realization with this sick, horrible thing with my mother that grotesqued me so bad, to just be a real person and be a friend online. Not look for really a relationship. Now, Fortunately, I still said I was single, unfortunately. And there were some men that I was seriously talking to, but I knew I'd never go meet them, and um, I kept somewhat of a distance in those relationships that we're building. I did talk to some of them on the phone, though. We shared email, we, shared addresses. I had a P.O. box at that point because I was planning on leaving my husband. It was all in the works already. Um, and I thought, well, I'm gonna get a P.O. box. I'm gonna start talking to people. I'm gonna start building relationships because I do want a life after this marriage. But these people were from all over the world, so it wasn't like I was going to leave and go to them. That wasn't the thing. But these people and some of the fake relationships gave me the courage and the strength to say I don't have to be an abused wife to an alcoholic in my life. That there is potentially people who do want to date you, people see you, for you and not this terrible person my parents made me out to be like I was. I think my parents made me out to be like I was some kind of hardened criminal or something. I didn't even, with the whole shoplifting thing, I didn't even shoplift anything. I didn't even take anything myself. I just let other people take things out of peer pressure. So I was like, I wasn't a big criminal. I never took drugs. I did some drinking, but everybody kind of drank at parties and stuff. So, but I can't say just because everybody did it, it was okay for me to. It wasn't. But, so was almost 30 years old thinking I was this horrible, ugly, terrible person because I believed these people, because I loved these people and I wanted them to love me. When I realized I needed to start my life out on my own, honestly, catfishing got me through it. And I'm so sorry if I hurt anybody out there that ended up with a broken heart. Because of it, because that was never my intent. But know this, if you were one of them, you helped me live. At that time, I knew I had to leave my husband. Either one of three things was going to happen. He was going to eventually kill me, or I was going to leave and possibly still be killed. If I had to stay, I was planning suicide. I had a whole death plan planned out. I couldn't take it anymore. And I would rather have taken my own life than lived one more day with that man. I'm not saying he's this evil, rotten creature. It just wasn't working. I was even more isolated and felt worse about myself than I did before I met him. And that's not a good relationship. Here's these total strangers catfishing that actually made me feel like I'm a viable human being that deserved a life. And my own husband couldn't spend time with me and make me feel that way. Instead, he degraded me and cut me down and told me I was stupid. I at least went to tech school. He didn't even finish, I don't think he finished 8th grade. I don't know. It was somewhere between 8th and 10th. But yet people like that will get inside of you and do everything they can to tear you apart. Now with catfishing, they can do the same thing. I had a good story. Most catfishing stories, people get really hurt, or people are hiding behind fake personas out there, pretending to be somebody they're not so they can intentionally hurt somebody, like my mother. And some are out there just to fulfill their sick fantasies. It's gotten really bad. I've been back into the online world since then. I mean, that was 20 years ago. It's gotten really bad. I don't know how anyone would give their true identity online anymore in this day and age at all. More power to you. I do, because I could care less. Come and get me. Good luck with that. I'm a fighter. It's not going to be a fair fight. But there's good and there's bad to catfishing. For some people, the only way they can even feel human because of some of the things they're going through and some of the trauma they've been through is to pretend to be somebody they're not. And that gets them through every day. Sooner or later, though, they have to face their reality. And when they have to face their reality, they either have to have built the character and the strength through all of that, or they're going to be even weaker than they were before, and they won't make it. So catfishing is a very dangerous, slippery slope. I can't go against those who do because I did. I can't, though, sit and condone it and say it was great. I think at the point in time I went through it, I needed to, because God needed me to see who I was, not all these people around me, family and husband and stuff, that were making me feel less than. And that brings up a point. I'm just going to quickly interject here. I've talked to a lot of people and I say, you make me feel, and they go, well, I don't make you feel anything. You choose to feel that. Now that is true. You do choose to feel that. But you can make somebody feel that way. You are mentally manipulating them into feeling a certain way about themselves, and then removing your blame or your actions by saying you chose to. Don't try that crap with me ever again. Because I've gotten wiser, smarter, and I stand out, and I don't take any shit. So people try to tell you that. Don't let them get further in your head. Be strong and go, wait a second. No, yes, you do. You're trying to manipulate this, and you're an even worse person than I was going to just accuse you of being for even saying that. So those are evil, conniving, criminal people that will say that to you. I'll tell you, everyone who's ever said that to me was up to no good. They're completely up to no good. So those are magic words to watch for. Your criminal-minded people will say that because they're getting in your head. They're narcissists. Complete narcissists trying to play a game with you. Don't play the game back. All right, back to this. I think I really kind of covered everything I was going to say. I'm just rereading my notes to make sure I don't miss any bullet points that were important to me. In the end, it really wasn't worth it. I mean, it really wasn't worth it. I should have found that self-esteem within myself. But there was a whole online community of people who really gave me a chance at life. And believe it or not, saved somebody from suicide without even knowing it. So, and this is Violet, my kitty. I was very happy that I survived. I wouldn't recommend catfishing. I recommend you being you. You would be surprised that there's probably a lot of people online that understand you or can understand you and care about you. It's okay to be you. It's okay to be you and be online and allow people to just appreciate you for who you are. You don't have to pretend to be somebody you're not. And if you're so obsessed with a certain human being that you have to be somebody else, that's not healthy. That is bad catfishing. That is not good at all. Don't do it. You're playing into additional mental issues that you're going to now create in yourself. And now the mental issues that people have brought to you and created in you, you're now feeding that and feeding more mental issues into yourself. Okay, so be very careful. Again, slippery slope. All right. The Bible phrase that I came up with for this is from Revelations chapter 13, verse 15. In the end, Revelations. And it was given to him to give breath to the image of the beast, so that the image of the beast would even speak and cause as many as do not worship the image of the beast to be killed. And I look at this as giving breath to the image of the beast. When you are catfishing and creating an online persona, you are creating a beast. an image of somebody that doesn't exist. And you're giving breath to it by typing in words or making phone calls or talking, in that image, bringing that image to life. And it will even speak and cause as many as do not worship the image of the beast to be killed. And yeah, it can cause great anger and all kinds of problems. Don't do it. I did one for research. The research part I don't regret at all because I learned so much. It also got me my foot into a real BDSM community, which I wanted to anyway. And by the way, you'll find out I really found my calling with that. That was it. That was where I needed to be at that point in time, and I loved it. I did not think I was going to love it, to be honest with you. When I was doing the research, I feared the stuff I was being told until I realized once I started accepting that and quit being fearful, that it was actually passion in me. So, I grew within myself on that. But any broken hearts that I might have caused by not being me, I still feel bad about that. People pain, they might have saved me, but who knows how badly I might have hurt somebody else. And maybe I was saved from suicide, but I don't know that somebody else didn't commit suicide because I was being fake. So if you care about yourself or others at all, catfishing is not safe, it's not advisable, it's not healthy for you or anybody else. So be you. The world will accept you for you. Just be you. It's okay to be you. I'll love you just the way you are. Okay? On that note, I do love you. Mwah.